Hi, I'm Hayden Foulds from the New Zealand Rose Society, and today I'm going to show you how to prune your roses. Roses are very easy to grow, and New Zealand has a great climate for growing them. First of all, why do we prune roses? We want to prune our roses to encourage new growth, to remove old, unproductive and dead wood out of our roses, and ultimately to produce more flowers. After all, that's why we grow roses in our gardens. So when do we prune our roses, and what conditions should we prune our roses in? First of all, prune on a fine, clear, still day. A day that's good to get your washing dry is ideal. When do we prune our roses in New Zealand? In winter time, from about middle of June to late August, depending on where you are in New Zealand. In the warmer areas, you can start a bit earlier. In the southern areas, generally a little bit later, and you want to be finished by the end of August pruning your roses. But they're very forgiving plants, so don't stress if you don't get them done exactly when you think they should be done. So what tools do we need when we're pruning our roses? First of all, we need a nice sharp pair of secateurs. The New Zealand Rose Society recommends Falco brand. These are hard-wearing, long-lasting secateurs, and replacement parts are available. So they're well worth investing in a good quality pair of secateurs to prune your roses. I also recommend you have a sharpener with you as you prune your roses. A blunt pair of secateurs will tear wood, so it's nice to keep your secateurs nice and sharp as you go along. A pair of loppers is also handy for those larger canes in your roses that the secateurs just won't handle. I personally prefer a pruning tool such as this. It folds out, it's easy to have on you, and it's really good for getting into those tight little spots in your roses. We all know roses have thorns, so a good quality pair of gloves also help. These are Falco gloves, and they will protect not only your hands but your lower arms as well. I also recommend you cover up when you prune your roses, so no skin showing, because they do bite. Also good to have wire brush on hand. There's various sizes which you can buy from hardware stores. The reason why we use wire brushes is to give the crown of your rose, which is the base down by the ground, a good scrub to get rid of all the flaky bark and build up of dirt, and to encourage new basal shoots that come away from the bottom of the rose. Also good to have some pruning ties available, something soft. You don't want something hard that's going to cut into your roses. This is tree lock, which can be cut to length and is reusable over and over again. And finally, a bit of spray and resin remover for your secateurs, just to get off some of that nasty gunk that builds up, to keep them nice and clean at the end. When we come to prune our bush roses, what do we need to do? First of all, I take a step back and just have a look at what we're doing. So here's an example of a bush rose, and ideally we want to reduce this by about 1/3 to 1/2. We want to remove all the flowers, all the foliage off, don't leave any of that behind. So take a good look at your rose and also treat them as individual. Look around your garden, don't cut them all at the same height, but treat them all as individual plants. So step back, have a look. I can see on this plant already it's pretty good, but there's some dead, diseased and dying wood in the bottom, which I need to remove before we get going any further. So this piece here has dead wood on it. You can see the browning. So this needs to be cut out. It's not going to be any good. So I've got my saw and I'm just going to cut. And there we go. It's removed. You also just want to make sure that your cut is flush. So I'm just going to cut it down a little bit more. So once you remove your dead, diseased and damaged wood, the next thing is to start removing some of the spindly, unproductive wood or canes out of your plant. So these little canes here are not going to do much anything at all, so take them out. You also want to remove anything out of your plant that's cluttering the centre. You really want a nice open shape in your plant. So I'm going to start removing some of these centre canes out, making sure that they're a nice clean cut and they're cut flush at the base. Don't leave any stubs or scars, but nice and flush. And pull them out. So you're starting to open up your plant. Having an open plant helps with preventing disease because it allows airflow through the plant, which is what we wanted to encourage. We want a nice open, almost a cup-shaped plant. We also want to encourage new growth on our plants, keeping the young wood and removing some of the old wood where we can, to encourage flowers in summer. So this nice green stem here is reasonably new wood, probably from a year or two, so we want to keep that. You can see it's a nice green colour. The older wood is around the other side here. It's more of a olive green brown. It's got a bit of bark. It's getting a bit old and gnarly, and it's becoming a bit unproductive. So I'm going to remove that again with the saw, and right down at the base. It can be a bit of a mission sometimes to get these out, so sometimes it takes more than one cut to get them out. But there you go. So I'll just pull that out. Still had a bit up top, but you can see the old gnarly, it was getting a bit of dieback in there, so I've chosen to remove it. Remove that one as well. Okay, the next thing we want to do is start reducing the height on our plant and also removing some more canes. Ideally you want to go to an outward facing bud. That will force the growth outwards, but sometimes you just have to go where the rose is going. The great thing with going to an outward, you can sort of control where the rose is going to grow for you. So perfect up against the path, where you want it to sort of not grow right out where you're going to be walking. So this cane here, I'm just going to shorten back to a bud, cutting on an angle, which is important, about 1/2 centimetre above the bud. That one there, I'll take out there, so that's going to grow out here. That one's going to grow out there. This is a nice new growth here. I'll leave that a little bit longer, and that'll grow out there. This little bit in the middle here is not really going to do much, so I'm just going to cut it there, again on an angle. It's important to have your cuts on an angle so the water doesn't settle on the cuts and cause dieback. And again, up on an angle up here, and that's going to grow out there. This one's going to cut here, and that'll grow out there. When we make our cuts, we're looking for a bud. You can see a little growth bud there. That's going to sprout out in that direction, so you can control your plant reasonably well. And ideally you want it to come outwards from your plant to leave the centre open, but sometimes you do have to go sideways or even sometimes inwards. So you want to have your sloping cut is important, stop the water collecting on the cut, and you want to start about 1/2 centimetre above the cut and on a nice slope like that. So that's a nice cut, and that's going to force that growth out in spring that way. Now we're starting to get a bit more crowded again, so we're going to have to make a bit of choice about what we're going to cut out. I'm going to remove that one there. Again, it's got a bit of dieback, so it's time to get rid of it. Yeah, I'll cut there. That's going to force it that way. That'll come out there. I might remove that middle one altogether because it's getting a bit congested. And just remember, we want to keep our roses nice and open. And again, there's a bit of dieback I've just spotted in here. So I'm just going to remove that whole branch. You can see how the dieback's actually travelled quite a way down the stem. So you want to sort of cut after it so you're in front of it, because it will just keep going. This stem here I'm going to cut at an angle. This one here I will force out. Just trying to find a good bud. Sometimes you just have to work what you got. This one here I will cut that way so it will go back more that way. Again, a bit more dieback in there. That stem I will take down a bit. And again, there's some older stems which are not very productive and cluttering up the plant. I'll take those out. I'll take that small thin one out there. Shorten these back. This one I'll get growing into there, so it will come out this way. That one will go out that way. That one's not really doing a lot. That can come off. That one's sort of starting to get a bit close to the other plant, so we can sort of bring it back. Take that off. Those two are not doing much. And I will leave that one there. So there's a prune rose, all done. And now I can show you what, most importantly, once you've finished pruning your roses, is to clean up all the leaves, all the debris, because this will overwinter diseases such as black spot, rust. And if you help clean all that up, so clean it all up, you can use an old pair of kitchen tongs or a child's garden rake, are pretty good. So you just get in and get all that, pick up all the debris, because it really helps with trying to prevent disease in your roses. It's important to cut the canes off your rose flush with the bud union, otherwise they die back. So just make sure they're cut back. That's one from last year, which obviously didn't get cut back that far, so it helps to just get in there and give them a bit of a prune. Earlier on I talked about a wire brush and to use it on the crown of the roses. So give them a good scratch, but not too hard as to start exposing the green layer underneath. This helps get rid of the old flaky bark, dirt, anything else that is built up around your rose, and this will encourage new basal shoots away in spring. But just be careful, because some of them can be on the move when you're pruning, and you can scrub them off accidentally. So that's all you want to do, is to give your rose a bit of a brush, and you're done. So there are other types of roses you need to prune, and first of all I'm going to cover miniature type roses. These are just smaller versions of bush roses, so you just do the same thing but just on a slightly smaller scale. The wood's a bit thinner, so you just have to bear that in mind when pruning. Again, reduce by a third to a half, remove the dead, damaged and diseased wood, and take out anything crossing, and that's pretty just it for miniature type roses. Now for standard or tree roses. These are roses that have been grown, grafted on a tall understock, and are quite commonly planted in gardens around New Zealand. Again, treat these like a bit like a bush rose, trim them a little bit harder because you've got that extra height. You don't want too much height on them because they can become a bit too top heavy. So probably half, reduce the size by. Same principles as the bush rose apply, but when you're pruning, also check your stakes, check your ties, make sure you've got two really good stakes in beside them. Just recheck your ties, just so that it's nice and secure for the season ahead, because nothing more disheartening than a standard rose being blown over, or even worse, snapped off. Shrub roses, again, the same principles apply as such as bush roses and miniature type roses. You just want to shorten the stems. You want to try and have a more rounded plant. These roses are a bit more lax in growth, so you just want to keep them a little bit more rounded. Again, reduce your height by half, remove the dead, disease, damaged wood, and then just try and thin out the material in the centre, so you've got a bit of an open centre. You can prune roses such as some of your ground cover type roses with a hedge trimmer. That can be done. You just have to bear in mind, after a few years it starts building up with a lot of dead, diseased, damaged wood. It gets quite crowded, so you do have to have a bit of a thin out after a while. But it is another way of pruning roses, and also quite easy, but after a while you do have to give them a bit of attention. So heritage roses, a little bit different to modern type roses, and how you prune them depends on how they flower. If they're a once flowering rose, they only flower in spring, you prune them straight after flowering. It seems a bit strange, but if you don't, and you prune them in winter, you're going to be cutting off next year's flowers. So a once flowering rose, prune after flowering. If it's a repeat flowering rose, you prune at normal time in winter. Now with heritage roses, they generally don't like being pruned very much at all. Again, remove your dead, diseased, damaged wood, and just trim to shape the bush, and just pretty much less is better when it comes to heritage roses. They're some of them are even quite happy not even being touched at all. So please don't cut your heritage roses too hard, because they will sulk. So when we come to climbing roses, there are two ways of growing them, either as a pillar upright like this, or as a fan shape, which I'm going to show you shortly. So with a pillar rose, it grows up. When you prune this, you want to sort of have it so that what's going to happen is all the flowers are going to end up the top, which you can't really sort of see and enjoy them up there. So what you really want to do is sort of aim for about a third of the shoots to terminate around here, another third to terminate around here, and then another third at the top, so you've got flower all the way down. Climbing roses are pretty much the same principles as for bush roses in terms of cuts, in terms of taking things out. Any side growth you shorten back to two buds, but you want to keep that nice long growth. Don't cut it back short because the plant will sulk. You just got to think of climbers as extra vigorous bush roses. So it's just basically just keep them high and just train them, so try and wrap them around your pillow or whatever you've got support available. This one here is going to need a bit of thinning out in terms of growing. And again, you've got tree lock in there or any other tie to hold it against the structure. It's important that they're tied up, otherwise they're going to flop about in the wind or they're going to get in the way when you're walking past. So climbers are pretty easy to trim, to prune, and they're really good for vertical colour in your garden as well, and actually not too much work. So for climbing roses, you want to make sure they're tied up to the supporting structure. You can use a variety of materials available. Just make sure that it's soft and there's a little bit of give to it. And yeah, just make sure they're tied up so they don't flop about in the wind or catch you as you go past. And it's important each year when you prune your climbers just to check the ties from previous years, that they're not cutting in to the rose or causing any damage to them as well. So climbers are all easy to grow. They just need a little bit more training than bush roses. You just got to think of them as extra vigorous bush roses. And the main thing is keep them tall. Don't cut this down there every year because it's not going to climb. That's the biggest mistake that a lot of people make with their climbing roses. They treat them like bush roses and then cut them back this high and then wondering why they're not going to climb. Well, you've just cut everything off, so they're going to spend all their energy next season trying to put all that back on again. Climbing roses, you can also train them as a fan along a vertical wall, fence or any other type of structure. The reason why you train them horizontally is you'll get flowers all along the stems, and that's sort of something you want. So you want to aim for a fan shape, having your older canes down the bottom and your newer canes coming up through the top, and as the canes age you try and tie them down. The canes are very flexible. It's very rare to have one break on you. So again, you just want to get these down as low as possible. Get your tie in place. You just get your tie and just tie it to your supporting structure like that, and just keep a little bit of slack, a little bit of give in it. Don't tie it up really nice and tight. That's all good. And then you just shorten back your side growth to about 2 buds. That little bit there I'm just going to take off because there's not really much happening with that one. Shorten back there. There. Yeah. And there. So you get flowers all along that, and then you just keep going with your canes. So you probably tie that one in there, and then you probably look to drag one of these tall ones from the back down into a fan shape. So yeah, train them horizontally, you get the most flowers, you get flowers all along the stem. Yeah, and as you pull them down, these will be the old canes, so maybe next year you'll cut that off and you'll keep training them into place. So the same principles applies for bush roses. Angle cut for your cuts, keep it nice and flush at the base. You can give the base a scratch, clean out some of the thinner canes down the bottom. Yeah, you just want to aim for that nice fan shape on your climbing roses. Yeah, and again, it's very rare for it to have a cane snap on you, and you can be quite, they are quite pliable to work with. Yeah, and they're not actually that hard. Doesn't take too much effort to train a climber. It's good to sort of get a good structure in when you plant them first up with your training, and yeah, really good to have lots of colour in the garden on your climbing roses. So once you prune your roses, what do you need to do next? First of all, you don't need to put anything on the cuts, just let them heal themselves. That's the best thing. Let Mother Nature take care of the healing of the cuts. If you want to use a winter cleanup spray like copper or oil, leave it a few days before you put them on. because these can interfere with the natural healing. Winter cleanup sprays are great. They help reduce disease around your roses, and if you're only going to spray once, I highly recommend you do your winter cleanup sprays with either copper or oil on your roses. It helps keep the disease at bay for much longer during the season, and it's really a good cleanup for diseases around your roses. When you're spraying, make sure you read the label of the container. This is very important. It's got a lot of information for you, how to get the best out of the spray and how to look after yourself, how to cover yourself. Please make sure you cover up with gloves, all the usual spray precautions. And if you need any help, please talk to your garden centre, your hardware store or your local rose society. They're only too happy to help with any cultural questions. So hopefully by watching this video, you've gained some tips and information on how to prune your roses. Give it a go. They're very forgiving. It's almost impossible to kill a rose by pruning it. The worst you can do is it will salt for the next season. If you're wanting more information on how to prune roses, we have free pruning demonstrations around New Zealand each year. Check out our website nzroses.org.nz or our social media for details of these. We have a Facebook group called Roses Aotearoa where you can ask questions from our rose experts as well. If you're wanting to learn more about roses, why not join the New Zealand Rose Society? We have branches around New Zealand. You can join online through our website nzroses.org.nz. There are many benefits of joining the Rose Society. You meet some wonderful people who have got like-minded interest in growing roses. We have members from all walks of life. We also have discounts available to members for various things when you join. We also produce some great publications. The New Zealand Rose Experts Guide, you get this free when you join the Rose Society. It's yours to keep. It's a great publication full of information on how to grow great roses in your garden, covering various chapters including pruning, planting, hybridising for those who go a bit further in roses, and also a general care and maintenance guide. So a great read and reference guide to have on hand when you're out and about in the garden. Every year you also get a copy of the New Zealand Rose Annual. This has rose information, news and views from New Zealand and abroad on all aspects of rose growing. It's a great read and well worth looking forward to, and lots of pretty pictures as well of beautiful roses. You also get a copy of the New Zealand Rose Review, which contains reviews of new roses in New Zealand, top favourites as voted by Rose Society members, trial ground results from Hamilton and Palmerston North trials, and feature articles on different aspects of the world of rose. And there's a lot of great information in here for those who are wanting to plant a new rose or two in their gardens.